CNBC's American Greed, celebrating 15 seasons and 200 episodes of scams, hustles, and frauds.
We're seeing people who don't let the constraints of civilization determine what they can and can't do.
Take a deep dive into the crimes of the young, the gifted, and the greedy.
They let themselves give into that temptation to make money.
They're foreign,
And when they were speaking and had an accent, they said, "Do you know where we're from?"
flirty,
The one very more taller, sophisticated. The other one was more cutesy, like the girl next door.
and fun-loving.
Very disarming. They compliment you. You're very, very nice. You're a nice American. I said, "Oh, thanks."
They're bar girls, also known as B-girls. And once they get a hold of a man's attention,
The girls would straddle the guys, rub up against the guys, grind on the guys.
and his credit card, the game's over.
Every 3 minutes, $2,000, $3,000, $5,000, $800 tip, $700 tip.
But behind the smiles and the seduction, a scheme run by the Russian mob exploits Florida law
Listen, guy, I'll bust your head right here. I'm a police officer and I can do it.
and runs up a bar tab for the record books.
The limit of the credit card was the only thing that stopped them.
They exceeded the greed limit. Forget about get-go. Greed is good. Greed is not so good. Eventually, you'll get nailed.
The B-girls hunt in teams of 2, and they have a keen sense of when to pounce.
One of the key things I would ask them, what you looking for? Are you looking for a watch or what are you looking for? And one of the things that the girls kept on coming back, they said that you can always tell if a guy has money by their shoes. If it's high quality, extremely expensive shoes, then they got money.
The girls move in, lavishing attention on their mark. If he's with friends, they try to separate him, divide and conquer. And they tease him, playing on his sense of machismo.
They would love to hit on a man's ego and tell him, let's take some shots.
And the other one poured a shot down my throat. I said, "I did the shot, okay?"
But the girls were served water and the men were served vodka. And they were masters of having the clients drink an incredible amount of vodka in a short period of time.
Once the guy is good and liquored up, they say they know a place around the corner that's quiet, where they can talk. They're master manipulators of the male psyche, says Pat Jordan, who wrote about the B-girls for Playboy.
They're just looking for a guy who thinks he's a player. You know, they're like a Playboy cartoon. 2 gorgeous women going up to some nerdy guy in glasses at a bar and saying he's the hottest thing they've ever seen. A real player would know right off. I mean, me, 2 bar girls coming up to me, I'd say, "What do you want, a grandfather?" You know? But it's got to be a guy who thinks he's a player.
Wednesday, January 5th, a new season of Greed begins on CNBC. Theranos goes to trial.
She was the next big thing.
Sex and scandal.
I had just graduated high school. He would ask me to go out for a couple of drinks.
Boeing's soaring greed.
What caused this brand new plane to crash?
Anything for money.
He ran a criminal syndicate, millions of dollars.
American Greed. New season starts Wednesday, January 5th on CNBC. Ephraim Diveroli, just 18 years old, says he is doing his part for the war on terror. No, not on the battlefield. In his apartment in Miami. He's an online government contractor supplying weapons and ammo to the U.S. Army. And America's wars are making him rich.
He had made $1.8 million, and he showed me his bank statement. And that blew me away.
What he delivers to the front lines is the cheapest equipment he can find, including some that is damaged and unacceptable.
This guy is getting rich off of selling bad ammunition, while people the same age as him are taking the sacrifices. Despicable.
And that's not all. He's also breaking the law, defrauding the U.S. government. But he says he is a warrior, a tough international gun runner, a guy who makes his own rules, an aspiring merchant of death.
It was a Lord of War type feeling. You know, I am the master of things that go boom.
This kid gets a $300 million contract, taxpayers' money from the United States of America. That's a disgrace. Has anybody been fired for this? Can I ask the panel? Anybody get their walking papers for what's happened here?
The Army answers that it made a mistake. And over time, it becomes clear that the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan created a contracting bonanza for many companies. Diveroli is hardly alone in his goal to get rich from the business of war, but his case still stands out.
Yeah, the Commission on Wartime Contracting estimated that there was $30 to $60 billion in waste, fraud, and abuse. But at the same time, some of that was just overcharging or waste. This was illegal, what Diveroli was doing. This was in a class by itself.
By June, Diveroli's dream of becoming another Lord of War seems to be over. He, David Packhouse, and Ralph Merrill are indicted on charges of fraud. Packhouse and Diveroli both plead guilty.
I said this to him, and I sincerely believe this. I said, Ephraim, in a weird way, this is good for you. This experience is going to show what happens when you're not careful and you let things go too far. And he actually agreed with me at that point. I didn't know until later that he started up gun running again.
Mike the Situation Sorrentino makes his mark starring in the notoriously over-the-top reality TV show Jersey Shore. Virtually overnight, he morphs from musclehead to millionaire.
He was showing me like, oh, I got this Ferrari. I was buying stuff, buying lots of stuff. He was like a rap star all of a sudden.
Sorrentino's character is a walking hyperbole, 100% bad boy.
Sometimes when I think of Jersey Shore, I remember it as an animated show, because it had a lot of that aesthetic to it.
But when Sorrentino applies that reality TV swagger to real life and fails to pay taxes on nearly $9 million of income, much of it in cash, the situation is real bad.
Well, in 2011, I can tell you that he did not file a tax return at all.
There's nothing wrong with being paid in cash. What's wrong is if you don't report your income to the IRS and pay your fair share.
He got arrested for tax evasion, which is like the wimpiest thing to get arrested. What we saw and what we made of these characters was, of course, not what they really were.
On the show, the Situation shamelessly revels in bad behavior. But in real life, the Sorrentinos try to cover up their crimes.
The Sorrentinos gave the government a compact disc containing financial records that were saved in a QuickBooks program. After the grand jury subpoenas had been served on the Sorrentinos, Mark Sorrentino had gone into the QuickBooks records and altered the records.
Mark Sorrentino reclassifies taxable income as loans or other non-taxable income.
He did this so the QuickBooks records would be similar to the information he filed in his tax returns.
Mark Sorrentino apparently doesn't realize it, but just like the ubiquitous cameras of Jersey Shore, everything is being recorded.
In QuickBooks, there is something called an audit trail function where you can see all the changes and modifications that have been made to a file. When the agents looked at it, they saw it down to the timestamp, every single thing that he changed. That was that.
In April 2017, additional charges of structuring and falsifying records are added. After months of pre-trial wrangling, Mike Sorrentino pleads guilty to one count of tax evasion. And Mark Sorrentino pleads guilty to one count of aiding in the filing of a fraudulent tax return. Mike is sentenced to 8 months, and Mark is sentenced to 24 months in prison. The judge cites Mark's attempts to cover his tracks as a reason for a longer sentence. The man who made a fortune acting like the rules don't apply to him learns the hard way that they do. The Fyre Festival. This glossy promotional video pitches it as the greatest music festival ever.
You know, beautiful models frolicking in the water in the Bahamas. Fyre Festival.
It's supposed to be like the most insane festival the world has ever seen.
But Firefest is a complete disaster that quickly goes viral.
Welcome to Fyre Festival.
What's happening? Fyre Festival is cancelled.
This is just fucking crazy.
And the mastermind behind it all, 25-year-old Billy McFarland.
Billy had a lot of obvious talents, but the greatest one was selling himself.
That's fucking hustling right here.
In scam after scam, he defrauds more than 100 of his investors of $27 million.
He was a serial fraudster.
He's someone with a lot of resources. He can do either really great things or also really terrible things.
Well, unfortunately, we are not able to proceed with payroll immediately. That said, if you want to stick with us, we'd love to have you. So I'm unclear as to how you're asking us to remain employed while not paying us. I think we've been misled, to put it lightly.
Billy, should we have any concern about the FBI?
I don't know. I think that's an individual thing.
By now, the FBI is in fact on the case.
McFarland stepped over that line. No, his vision was mountainous, but his business plan was debilitated.
Agents discovered that McFarland lured investors by claiming Fyre Media was worth $90 million, but that was pure fiction.
He had produced fake financial statements that the documents themselves looked legitimate. And he presented this persona about himself as being successful.
The FBI finds that McFarland told investors the Fyre app had more than 4,600 bookings in a year. In reality, they were just 60. He claimed that Fyre Media earned hundreds of thousands to millions each month in revenue. But in 1 year, the app earned just $57,000.
He had claimed even at one point that there was a period of time that he had generated between $40 and $50 million per month.
McFarland assured investors and lenders that he could personally guarantee their money. He claimed to own an island valued at $8.4 million and $2.5 million worth of Facebook stock.
McFarland produced a fake Scottrade account that showed up $2.5 million. In reality, he only possessed about $1,500 worth of that publicly traded company.
And McFarland created a completely fictitious buyer for Magnesis.
He had provided to them documents that stated that he had sold Magnesis for $40 million and that he was going to sustain millions in profit as a result of it. In reality, he did not sell the business and that it was a lie to the investors.
Ultimately, McFarland took in more than $27 million from more than 100 investors.
Some of the investors lost their life savings.
I think it's more indicative of just like sociopathic behavior. We're not internalizing the damage that you're doing. All that you know is that you're very good at taking people's money and putting it in your pocket.
They're called the Bling Ring, a fast crowd of celebrity wannabes.
Accused of robbing some of Hollywood's hottest young stars of jewelry and other items.
And now they talk to American greed.
Our culture in Hollywood is extravagant.
Some people might strive to go to medical school. I guess in the LA area, young people strive to have Rolex watches.
But the Bling Ring steals more than jewelry.
They weren't primarily motivated by money. They were almost taking pieces of the fame.
It's not, oh, wow, I really like that. It's, I have to have that.
In October 2008, the Bling Ring targets hotel heiress Paris Hilton. The reality TV star is as well known for her chihuahuas as she is for her Jimmy Choo shoes. According to the LA County DA, Nick Prugo cases Hilton's 7,000 square foot Hollywood Hills home on the internet.
There was a site called celebrityaddressaerial.com, and essentially you clicked on the address to give you kind of an aerial sense of the property, the layout. And once they would do that, then the next stage was to go out and case their target.
You look at these kids, they don't look like hoodlums. So it would make sense if you're a normal guy and you're watering your lawn and you see these kids coming out of someone's garage and, hey, what are you kids doing? Oh, hey, sorry. And you probably wouldn't think twice about it.
According to police, Prugo and Rachel Lee are confident they'll pull this off.
By the time they went and did the burglary at Miss Hilton's house, they had done untold amount of residential burglaries. So it wasn't the first time at the dance. They didn't have that kind of nervousness that maybe would have gotten them caught.
They reportedly find a key beneath Hilton's doormat, unlock the door, and waltz right in.
They just went into Paris Hilton's house and said, hey, let's see what it's like to hang out in Paris's bedroom and try on her jacket. And then maybe it became, let's take the jacket.
They went through the place like termites and took what they want and hung out and, partied, and I'm sure just reveled in the fact that they were in a famous person's home.
American Greed. Some people will do anything for money. See the whole story anytime, on demand, and watch the new season on a new night. Wednesday, 10 Eastern, starting January 5th. CNBC. Get yours.